It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Seeing as we have been so inspired by the sciences, welcome back as we continue to inspire you, but we throw it way back, way back when. We have been exploring some amazing new projects, some new inventions. Our mind has been blown this morning. Some new technologies, the forefront of gaming, but something always has to start somewhere. It has to begin at some point, and chances are all of these cool things began with the word analog. So we thought we'd take a look at some of the inventions that changed the world. Will they become obsolete? Hopefully not. But this is really, really cool because everything has to start somewhere.
I love this conversation because a lot of people, and a lot of South Africans specifically, are what I like to call technophobic. You don't like new technology, anything new.
We hate change.
Yeah, don't like change. Facebook changed their homepage, and you'll hear your aunt complain for like months. But there's a reason a lot of tech gets made, and for the future, that tech is not novel anymore. It's part of their everyday lives.
It's essential,
think about the washing machine that we've just seen now, right? Think about the need for a washing machine. That appliance was made relatively recently. Before that, people were washing their clothes with hands, and now it's a very common item in the household. And at the time, there were a lot of people that were like, why do we need washing machines? This is the worst thing ever.
I can do it perfectly well with my two hands.
So it's called being a Luddite, actually. Is this the name? It's like, if you are technophobic.
Stop being a Luddite. Okay.
But there's a lot of technology that was like this that kind of changed the world. And let's talk about the mechanism now that we've seen in the analog washing machine. Okay, the difference between analog is that analog is usually like physical labor or something. Like an analog watch has got cogs that turn physically in it, and a digital watch has got electronics in it.
It's got ones and zeros.
Yeah, ones and zeros. Yeah, there we go. So the first one is the bicycle, which you think is an everyday household item now as well, but it was a really crazy new piece of technology. It was also known as the dandy horse, and it was kind of introduced in 1817, so not that long ago. So,
and it was weird.
It was very strange. Had two wheels, but remember, it didn't have pedals until quite later on in 1968.
Oh, so you have to shuffle. You have to do
it was just a way that you could go downhill.
Yeah. There was no uphill.
So, and obviously we've seen like bicycles transform into this huge billion dollar industry.
No, well, now they're pushing them as a green travel option now. In London, a lot of the biggest cities, countries across the world are creating more opportunity to ride because people want to go back to analog.
Yeah, in Cape Town, and I'm sure there's spots in Joburg, there's bicycle lanes that are being rolled out, making sure more people can get to work on a cheaper mode of transport. And also the mechanisms there, like the pedals and so on, are used in other use cases like the washing machine.
The most novel washing machine ever.
That we've seen.
I love it.
The next one is the printing press. Which I hope if you're going to school today, you're in matric and you're doing your history, this is one of the most exciting ones. It might sound super boring, but in 1440 was when the first printing press was made by Johannes Gutenberg, and it transformed the world. Before that, everybody was using something called the oral tradition. They were talking about passing it down by word and writing it down by hand. So you'll have scribes that would like manually write it down. But the printing press opened up the opportunity for people to have home literature. Remember, it's famous because it was the first device to print the Bible and get the Bible in everybody's hands. And the church at the time hated it because they wanted to keep the Bible in a language that people didn't understand, which was Latin. With the Gutenberg press, they were able to, with Martin Luther, who did the Reformation, they were able then to print the Bible in regular German.
They democratized church
and knowledge, and people just made the Bible in everyday tongue, so people could read it for themselves and make up their own minds and so on. And people at the church burnt those books at the time, and books were seen as evil. Yeah, so that's the whole idea of like technology coming in.
Attachment of technology.
Yeah. Completely. So anyway, the history of the Gutenberg press is something that's very fascinating. I love it. So you got to read it out. Another one is the sewing machine. Before that, like a sewing machine is actually quite old. Like it goes back to like 1790.
Yeah, because they also had a pedal iteration that would.
Yeah. So usually, you would sew by hand, and with the invention of the sewing machine, you could now automate that process and then make more reliable stitches. and faster stitches, which increased the amount of clothes that one individual could make. So if you had clothes making as a profession, you could make more money.
Created industry. I
Yeah,
love
which
that.
is
very
and
cool.
we use sewing and knitting and so many things. This to me is still like I understand a lot of technology, but it's still magic to me. Every time I see a sewing machine operate, I have to go like,
Yeah.
and it's, even an
How
analog
is it
one, I'm like, how are you
that?
doing this?
How have you not tied yourself into a knot? Now, my mom's an amazing seamstress, and she works with a big industrial sewing machine, and I'm still mind blown. when
Like you watch it in slow motion, it's just it's wild. Like, I still don't understand how it works, but it's still one of the most common household items that use like analog tech.
And I think this next one, this final one, everything relies on physics. Ultimately, whether you're doing it analog, whether you're doing it digitally, some things have very
I would say
humble
that analog
beginnings.
exploits physics to do what you want
What
it to
you
do.
needed to do. In the case of the water pump,
So the water pump is like obviously windmills and the water pump transformed like society. When we started like moving away from a nomadic system to more farming, crop farming and animal farming, we needed to lock down at a location, and sometimes there's no water there. When you're nomadic, you can walk to the water.
Yeah.
You can pick up your tribe and move to the
pick
water.
up your pigs and go. Yeah.
But now you had to like lock down, and the water pump is just a mechanism. It's such a simple mechanism where it's either wind driven, sometimes it could be water driven, or
Even
kinetic
pedal-driven.
pedal driven, and it will pull water up from the earth to use on your crops and use to feed your family and so on, and then also harness it. So windmills use wind and water mills to break down wheat chaff. So whatever you farmed, you can use that mechanism to then make flour. So and like there's no like technology, like digital technology, but you're using the elements like you were saying, physics to do that, which is really
It all comes together with a little bit of energy, and I love the fact that as far as we have progressed as a species technologically, everything does have a humble beginning somewhere, and chances are it's a little analog. So this one we're going to dedicate to all the Luddites out there. It's all right to be a little technophobic from time to time, but just not too much.